Yo, welcome back to the GM Podcast. I'm Miller.
It's Gav.
And today, we are bringing you guys a NBA Finals preview. My OKC Thunder going against the Indiana Pacers.
Yep.
I am so excited, very excited. There's about to be a ring coming to Oklahoma City, but we'll get into that very soon. First question I want to ask, there's been a lot of discourse on how, small market finals, it's not as fun as finals have been. It doesn't have the stars that we've seen. I just want to ask you, how do you feel about the storyline of this finals? How do you feel about the matchup in this finals? Are you intrigued by a lot of those types of things?
Yeah, I know at first, and I'll give you a real prediction later. I said OKC in 5.
Yeah.
Like just looking before the Pacers won, I thought they were going to win.
Yeah.
And that's obviously changed for me. But I saw Adam Silver say something today about he envies the NBA in a sense of if Pittsburgh and Green Bay were in a Super Bowl, they would love that. And and so I think it's the type of viewers that the NBA has, and it became at one point too star driven.
Yeah,
you didn't have to, and I love it now. But that's just me as a basketball lover.
absolutely.
And I love real basketball, team basketball.
Yeah,
While 5 years ago, I mean, you saw it with Katie, Kyrie, and like, not to discredit the guys around them, but it's almost like if you get them three, whatever real group around them that was remotely solid, you can win a title with.
Absolutely.
And that's not the case anymore because of the rules and the new CBA, collective bargaining agreement. You can't build teams like that.
Exactly.
Even OKC, who 5 years ago, we would be talking dynasty, but now we can't say that for sure, and it probably won't be because the second apron is going to hit them like that, and they've never really passed the second apron, and they're not a team or ownership group that does that. So that's where it's changed, and I think the fact that we have a different championship winner every single year, and it's college-like, as in you're not always talking about the star. You're not always talking about Haliburton. You're talking about that team.
Yeah.
Indiana looks. I've heard so many people tell me Indiana looks good. I love the way Indiana does this, rather than in the past it was LeBron going to the finals.
Yeah,
they didn't even say the Heat.
No.
They didn't even say the Cavs.
It's LeBron.
It's LeBron going to the finals. And it's like Steph, Katie, and Clay. Steph, Katie, Clay, like they wasn't even talked about as real teams.
Yeah.
And now I think it's college-like, for now at least, and I hope it stays this way, me personally. I don't know. I know it's not great for views if it's Indiana and OKC, but I love the fact that it's going to see which team is the best. And
absolutely.
Shea being the best player matters, but it matters less than having the best player in past finals.
Absolutely. Very true.
So I love that part of it. But that's just me. I know the average fan wants to see Ant Edwards and Brunson go at it probably.
Yeah, that was the ideal finals for most people. I feel like the fact that we are in an era of parity, like you said, and different teams are going to the finals and different teams are winning, the thing that we are missing, I feel like, is that the fact that these young stars keep winning, if it's SGA or Tyrese Haliburton this year, it's going to be that quest for each of these players to be like, okay, when am I going to get my second ring now? The player that comes out of this generation with 2, maybe 3 rings is going to be looked at in a very high regard, even on the same level as the Currys who have 4 rings, the LeBrons who have 4 rings. 2 rings is going to mean a lot in this era where teams are not, having dynastical runs. Is that a word? I just pulled that out. It sounded smooth. It's probably not, though. But, teams having dynasties. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I feel like if Shea can get this, and then we're already excited for Ant. When you look at the landscape of the league, whatever finals matchup is to come from years to come, we're going to have big stars. I don't see a world where Giannis, Jokic, Tatum, Shea, Ant, let's say Embiid maybe in a weak East, Haliburton, who's already been to a finals. I don't see a world where those teams don't at some point collide in the finals. And then we are talking about an ultimate finals matchup between 2 great superstars that is legacy defining. And this, in my opinion, the one thing about this finals that is underwhelming is it feels like the stakes isn't as high. It feels like, obviously, Shea and Tyrese, their careers can be built off of this, but it doesn't seem like a loss really derails their careers or takes them off of, superstar or Hall of Fame trajectories. But like you said, I agree with everything you said matchup-wise. But like you said, these small market teams going at it, it feels very college and it feels very team driven. Yeah. And for pure basketball fans, it's going to be a joy to see the form of basketball. And me and you, we probably have had differences in how we think this series is going to go based off of what we think about these two teams. But everyone who knows basketball knows that this is going to be a very intriguing series.
Even if it's a sweep, it's not going to be 40 points. It's going to be good basketball. Which I don't think it won't be a sweep. It won't.
No. I mean, there are a lot of 5 and 6 game series that I feel like have been undervalued just because you know one team gets them all. But they're
the
good
Lakers
games.
Nuggets series.
Oh, the Lakers Nuggets.
We're good.
Wasn't that a sweep?
Yeah.
That was a very fun series to watch.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But I think this has the potential to be the best finals that I've watched in my lifetime, behind the Warriors Cavs when LeBron came back 3-1.
You've been alive for 20 years. That's saying a lot.
Yeah, and I'm saying that because. Maybe third. The LeBron going back after being down 3-2 against Spurs.
Yeah, I thought the Spurs was.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
You got Tim Duncan being 6-0 in finals.
Absolutely.
So I say it has the potential to be third on my list.
Yeah.
On the fact that once again you have two teams colliding.
Yeah.
And it's styles. You have the number one offense. You have the number one defense.
Yes.
And this is just the difference is, I think OKC has. They score a lot of points per game, and it's due to their defense.
Yes.
We're not talking about them like last year's Boston or the Warriors, prime Warriors offensively. They might put the same points because they're getting steals and leak outs and whatever, but in the half court, they're not they're elite, but they're not like
it's not overpowered. Yeah, it's not an all-time offense.
It's not an all-time offense. So
they just have an all-time offensive player.
So I think it's interesting to see if Haliburton stays with 0 turnovers. Yeah. It's not as lopsided as people think it's going to be, and it just comes down to the Pacers playing, how they play, their style, keeping their style. Haliburton, low turnovers. Siakam showing up, being the best power forward, being the best front court player in this series.
Yes, that's important. Absolutely.
So yeah.
So going into this final series, who do you think is the biggest X factor as far as players go? Who do you think is the biggest X factor? We'll go for both teams.
Yeah, okay. So for Indiana, I'm going to say Nembhard for sure.
Okay.
I think that he got away with, even though people are saying like the Knicks, the ball would have bounced this way, they could have won that series. Yeah. That's right. But Nembhard had a lot of very bad games. I think he had multiple 1-for-9 games.
Yeah, it was bad.
Offensively, he had some struggle games. He won them the series at the end on defense.
Absolutely.
And hitting open shots, but I think he has to be huge offensively. He has to be like he was in those Cavs series. He has to be how he was against New York last season.
Yeah.
This the only bad series I've seen him play, and it wasn't a bad series. It just he just didn't put in a full game sequence, I guess. So yeah, I would say Nembhard for sure. He has to be there every game, or at least the 4 that they win.
Yeah.
If they want to win this series.
Yeah.
And then for OKC, it's J-Dub.
Okay.
I think he has to be the J-Dub we've seen, as in consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess you can have 1 or 2 dud games, but he has to be more consistent than he is inconsistent.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if he's the elite defender, that's going to be there every night.
Yeah.
The defense is not what I worry about. It's offensively being sure on what he's going to do, not turning the ball over, and this doesn't mean he has to drop 30. It just means you could drop 18 to 20 to 22, whatever, on just consistent shooting and taking the open ones, taking the driving lanes, playing aggressive. He doesn't have to force anything. And I think that, with the Pacers playing full court defense, the Pacers playing the way they do, I think at first I looked at this as, Pacers going to lose in 5. They might get swept. As in, I think it'll go 6 or 7.
Okay. I have, for my X factor for Indiana, I'm going to go with Miles Turner.
Yeah.
I think he has the chance to be an extremely dominant interior presence in this series. We've had some flashes. OKC has had some flashes of not being great inside, not dominating the boards, being a little soft inside. Miles Turner, if you want to find a hole in this team, and there's not a lot of them, you need to be dominant on the glass in this series and dominant inside. Maybe give him a spark game, have a 30-point game in this series somewhere in there. I think he had one against
he can hit
Cleveland.
Shots.
Yeah, he hit shots from everywhere. So he's going to be big for them. If they can get that third option of offensive explosion, that's going to be big for them. And then OKC. I'm going to go with the other third option. I'm going to go with Chet. I want to see some lineups with Chet running the 5 in this series because I do think it's going to be interesting to see if Chet can hang with Miles Turner. And then with Indiana's speed, I don't know if I trust Hartenstein's minutes in this series as much as I have in past series. And I don't think Hartenstein played in the previous 2 matchups very much. I think he was played off of the court, but I don't think Chet played either one of the first 2 matchups. So we are going to have to see how he fits into this matchup and honestly how he guards people like Pascal Siakam, who might be able to go straight through his chest. Guy that has already been to the finals. He might bust his ass in this series. And it's going to be important to see if, I know none of us named Pascal Siakam as our X Factor, but there's a world where the best number 2 in this series can be Pascal Siakam over Jalen Williams, 100%.
I think if I had to rank players, I would go Shea,
Haliburton,
Siakam, and then I would go J-Dub, Chet, Dort.
Yeah, 3 straight OKC somewhere in there. But yeah. Let's go to a new question.
Yeah.
Tyrese Haliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are leading their teams to finals. First off, let's start with Tyrese. Do you think if Tyrese Haliburton wins this series, he is an automatic top 10 player in this league today?
Yeah, he's automatic, and he's already in my top 10, and I have him closer to.
Is he closer to 5 than 10?
So I took Tatum out of my list because he's out for the next year.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay,
no.
then I have him 8.
Okay.
I have him 8, and that's solidified. I don't think he could. Like, I think unless he is swept or something, like I don't think he could drop to 9 in the series, even with a loss. What he's done this year, leading this team, I think people don't understand that he is the system.
Yeah.
That system it sounds good, but teams can't just do that.
Yeah.
Without Tyrese Haliburton.
Absolutely.
They would have any other team in the league tried to do that. They would have a bunch of turnovers.
Yeah.
Only Boston could hit shots like they could, and maybe like 1 or 2 other teams I don't know that I can't think of. So, but the fact that they can hit shots Boston like on some nights,
yeah,
and have no turnovers, like limited turnovers with that play style, is just impressive, and it doesn't run without Tyrese Haliburton. And he's the first player I've watched, even with sometimes watching Chris Paul. He's the first point guard that doesn't just pass to get assists.
Yeah.
I would love to know the statistics on his hockey assists of the times he passes it and that person passes it for like a layup.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of point guards in NBA history who, they have high assist numbers, but it's I'm holding the ball. Harden. I'm holding the ball the whole possession, and then it's Brunson, and then it's a lob.
Yeah.
So when you show me the statistics in the series and Haliburton had 10 assists and Brunson had 7, it wasn't that close passing wise.
No,
it looks like that statistically, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So honestly, I didn't come prepared for this question.
Yeah.
But I think Tyrese Haliburton has actually become a little bit overrated, and I know that this is the beginning of the finals, so it's crazy to say that he's led his team to the finals. Yeah. But I do think people have really bumped him into that upper echelon for no reason. And let me explain to you why. Okay, so let's go through the top 10 real quick. I'm going to give you a yes or no. Are they better or are they not better, okay? SGA.
Yes.
Jokic.
I mean, we just
I would swap that. Okay. Yeah, but just we'll just count them off. Okay. SGA and Jokic.
SGA's better.
Jokic. Giannis. Luka. LeBron.
No.
LeBron isn't better than Tyrese Haliburton.
I wouldn't take him.
I would absolutely take LeBron over Tyrese Haliburton.
But we're talking about
I'm talking about this year, though.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. No, I wouldn't.
Well, that's I don't know. I think LeBron James, they had a much worse roster, as you know, and LeBron was giving you damn near prime numbers this year. It really doesn't matter. His impact wasn't as felt, but he still had moments in his playoffs.
I don't feel the impact as much. And once again, yes, he had a worse roster, but LeBron doesn't look the same watching him. Like, and I know he's not prime LeBron.
Yeah, no.
But he's not, he's a solid defender. He was good defensively, but I just feel like Tyrese Haliburton, like I just said, he is the Pacers.
That makes sense.
I don't see us talking about any of these players at all, other than Siakam, with other rosters rather than. I mean, Miles Turner's been there for 10 years. I don't
agree with that.
Nesmith has been on the Celtics. He's been on this team, and all of a sudden he's developed into this shooter. And
Miles Turner has been a good player, though.
He's been a good player, but this is the best version of him because of Tyrese Haliburton. You're going to be at your apex with Tyrese Haliburton.
Yeah.
And with LeBron, I think he's lost that element of his game. I think he's still a great, elite, smart playmaker, but I don't think LeBron he can't control games like he used to in a chess match.
Especially in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He can't do that like he used to, as in, a prime LeBron would have had Rui at his best.
Yeah.
Would have had Dorian Finney-Smith, all these players at their best. And I don't see that in LeBron anymore. Not that he can't play make.
Yeah.
Not that he doesn't always make the right play.
Yeah.
But I just don't see that anymore. And I feel like Tyrese Haliburton deserves credit going to back-to-back conference finals.
Very true.
When you talk about guys like LeBron and KD, who, you could say based off what we have seen.
Yeah.
But just going off the last 2 to 3 years, I think I would like what I've seen from Tyrese Haliburton, especially the last 2 years leading.
So we're saying going into next year, you would want Tyrese Haliburton more than LeBron James. Okay. I don't agree with that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand the deep playoff runs. LeBron hasn't had very many deep playoff runs other than, I think, the year before Indiana went conference finals against the Nuggets, so that was something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would still take LeBron. I think he had a dominant year. He was all NBA second team this year, so I would be a little bit hesitant to crown him on that. So I do have 5 players, so let's keep going real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Steph, would you take Steph over Tyrese?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. So you have Steph over LeBron right now, which is solid, I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like if Steph would have been there, it's a toss-up between y'all and them to play right now.
Okay. That's interesting. That makes sense, though. That makes sense.
For sure being T-Wolves.
It would have been better than the T-Wolves series, 100%. So we got Jason Tatum. I'm going to have him over.
Okay,
so that's 6 for you right now.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid?
No.
I'm not going to lie to you, Gav.
And that's once again, a healthy Joel Embiid is a better basketball player.
Yeah.
Talent-wise, most talented. But at some point, you have to play and you have to play and you have to win. And he's done neither of those things in this league. And he's had capable rosters.
Yeah.
You could say he's had better rosters than Haliburton has now.
Very true. And I think he has had better rosters, but I think luck has a lot to do with it.
Yes. In cases like the Kawhi shot.
Yes.
In cases. But once again, he is extremely injury prone. And that is a literal ability.
Yeah.
And a healthy Joel Embiid, I think you put him right there with Giannis. But he's not healthy, and he's missed more games than he's played.
Yeah.
So is he really he's more of a plane rider and a whatever you want to call it than an actual NBA basketball player.
I mean,
he's done more of that since he joined the league.
That's true, but I would still be hesitant once again to crown Tyrese Haliburton, who the whole first half of the season wasn't great. And I realize he has had 2 deep playoff runs. But you give Haliburton a lot of credit for that. I give Rick Carlisle most of the credit and the general management for assembling a roster that, yes, Tyrese Haliburton does get the best of them, but not only are these good basketball players, and that's not what I'm going to talk about, these are smart basketball players. Tyrese Haliburton is like a super genius, like a brainiac of an offense in the NBA. But when you have a Gonzaga guard and Andrew Nembhard that already knows what he's doing, when you have TJ McConnell, a savvy vet who's been doing this stuff in the league for a while now, when you have Benedict Mathurin, who is averaging 16, people don't talk about him enough, great player. Miles Turner, 10 years, has been there, has done that. Pascal Siakam has been there, has done that, literally at the highest stage. So I do think Tyrese Haliburton deserves the most credit of anybody on this team. Yes, I do agree with that. But my thing is, Joel Embiid has been available in a good amount of playoff runs, and while he hasn't been the regular season version of himself, he is. I still feel as if there's a talent gap between him and Tyrese Haliburton, especially going into next season.
There is a talent gap, but once again, I have to look at winning at some point, and Tyrese Haliburton is younger.
Yeah.
Once again, I don't think this roster, you could make cases that Joel Embiid has had better rosters than this, and he still has gone to 2 more conference finals than Joel Embiid has. So,
but I think if Joel Embiid pick his best roster, I would say the one where they lost against Kawhi, they win this East.
I don't know.
That's my point. I don't think, and
once again, I'm not a fan of, and it's not as bad as Brunson, but the style of Joel Embiid walking the ball down, being slow, getting touches every single time down the court, that is not translating to winning in this playoffs at all.
Yeah.
Other than Jokic, and Embiid ain't Jokic. So I just think you give. Like, I don't think Embiid could play on, like, he could play, but I don't think he would be nowhere near as effective against this Indiana team if he wasn't effective against Boston in fourth quarters.
No, I don't.
Like,
no, I do. I think he would bust Miles Turner's ass. I think y'all proposed a little bit more different of a challenge. The fact that y'all had Al Horford to put on him.
Yeah, but
that was different.
Our pace is nowhere near Indiana's, though.
And that would be
with
fine.
Marcus Smart.
And that would be interesting to see how he would hold up against that pace.
Yeah,
but once again, going into next season, I am interested to see how many people will downgrade Joel Embiid in an East that is very susceptible.
And once again, doing this list as like, if I wanted to win next year, not even long term. I'm not just doing it off youth. If I wanted to win next year,
I'm talking about next year.
Who would I exactly? I would have Haliburton as my point guard, and the only person I would have ahead. And it'd probably be just next year after that. Probably not. It's like Curry. And I said Luka, I guess.
As a point guard, I think there might be 5 better point guards in the league right now than Tyrese Haliburton.
No, there's not.
I mean, SGA.
Yeah.
Luka.
Yeah.
Steph.
Yeah.
I still think Jalen Brunson is better.
No, he's beat him back-to-back years.
And I really don't think – first off, last year it doesn't even matter to me because Jalen Brunson's whole team was depleted, and he busted their ass from Game 1 to Game 7. And he played much better than Tyrese Haliburton in that series. And he's been doing it a little bit longer than Tyrese Haliburton.
Okay, but I don't think he played better than him this series at all.
I do. I think Jalen Brunson has to deal with the anchor of having Karl Anthony Towns on the floor on the defensive end, and that makes him.
But they have to deal with Brunson on the court.
They do. But Tyrese Haliburton and Andrew Nembhard, T.J. McConnell, those guards give up buckets every series they play to anybody who's the best player. They give up buckets to those same guys. So I'm not finna say that they're great defensive players, but they do have the reliability of saying, hey, this guy isn't a complete cone on the Indiana side. There's no guy that you point to other than T.J. McConnell who's going to pick you up 94 feet because he doesn't play 35 minutes a game. They have the ability to say, hey, I can trust this guy defensively to help me. Jalen Brunson at all times, if they wanted the maximum offensive output, had to say, hey, I can't do it. And Cat, same thing with Jalen Brunson. I understand that. I think with a better built roster, I think Jalen Brunson is just better.
I think these rosters are comparable. The only thing you can say Indiana has is depth. We're talking about Mikal Bridges. We're talking about Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. This is not a bad roster. And this is the best season they've had since whenever.
I agree. I think talent-wise, it is very comparable. I think as far as a holistic roster, though, and something that could do all things and no holes will be discovered. Indiana, what hole can you say about them? I mean, yeah, even defensively, they have stuff
but I think Brunson's style as a small point guard, he's doing as much as he can, but I don't think that style will ever win a championship offensively. Ever.
I don't, and I think they will change that. And I think they can get to a point to where he does change his game. And that's why I trust Jalen Brunson.
Because having 7 turnovers and it's different.
Well, you're saying 7 turnovers like he does that on the regular. That was one bad game.
He's still, no matter, I'm saying, and compared to Tyrese Haliburton, he will always have more turnovers than him.
Okay, that's fine.
No matter what, he will always have,
and even on a bad night. He will always have more points as well.
He will always have more points. But it's different. There's a reason why all the guys get going on Indiana, and the guys late don't. It's not a coincidence that guys late don't hit shots for the New York Knicks or guys at certain points don't hit shots. You can't sit like I can't.
Well, that's because Jalen Brunson hits the shots.
No, but if I shoot for 8 to 10 possessions or whatever, however many straight, I cannot expect the role player to randomly just hit a jump shot. It has never worked in NBA history.
No, that's true.
It has never worked, and that's why I say that style. If you just look at box scores, it's like, dang, Brunson killed. He shot efficiently. He had, not OD turnovers compared to like some players all the time. But once again, you're not really understanding the fact that style, Mikal Bridges will never be at his best.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns might as a number 2. OG will never be at his best on every night. So you're hoping that with the limited shots or the limited type of looks, it's almost like, dang, I'm surprised to get the ball. Yeah. While with a style like Indiana, everyone's playing, everyone's engaged on both ends of the floor at all times. That's why you see guys like Nembhard go off. If Nembhard plays with Brunson, I don't think he might go off randomly in spurts. I think even if he plays with Siakam, you had Siakam that team, it's going to have great games and then randomly in spurts because I'm not getting touches every time down the court, Everyone on Indiana is touching the ball every time. And I feel like that's, once again, in box scores, it looks like, dang, Brunson, he dropped 40 only. Haliburton dropped 20.
But that's what it is, though. I feel like you're undervaluing what Brunson is doing because, yes, you say that we've seen this blueprint before in Jalen Brunson and the no pass, just one guard going one-on-one. I know we've seen that, and we've seen that not work, but we haven't seen it done to the level that Jalen Brunson does it as far as a scorer, as far as the way he does it efficiently, the way he's making shots. It's not hard.
No, he's making shots. Yeah, I know that.
And at the end of the day, like it's not to a point where he's really taking away from his teammates.
But do you think it's just a coincidence that in most games he played against Indiana Pacers, like literally most, that they were losing when he was on the court, and it looked great.
I think they were losing. They weren't losing because of Jalen Brunson. They were losing because of the combination of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns.
Exactly.
That's what I think it was.
But it's a combination. We can't just because Brunson's doing so good.
So why do I have to say that Luka is better than Tyrese Haliburton? Why do I have to say that?
What do you mean? Why do you have to say Luka?
So if I'm talking about the Jalen Brunson hole that he's a hole on defense, right?
Yeah.
Why can I not say the same thing about Luka? So you're saying
because Luka has. I mean,
let me paint this picture for everybody out there. Okay.
Yeah.
You're saying that Luka is a better basketball player than Tyrese Haliburton. Tyrese Haliburton is a better basketball player than Jalen Brunson. Yeah. Correct. So if Jalen Brunson, if we're talking about him being a defensive liability that entire series, and that is why you kind of have to drop him down a little bit. What makes Luka so much different than Jalen Brunson that elevates him over?
Yeah, because he scores like Brunson, but his playmaking is different, but Haliburton-esque, and it's almost prime LeBron-esque, as in taking over a game. I mean, I look at the Mavericks run last year. Yeah. It's prime LeBron-esque, as in every single player on my team is at their peak version. Yeah. PJ Washington at their peak. Gafford and Lively is a rookie at their peak. I think the playmaking is what does it for me. I think Luka offensively, just on his NBA Finals run. I mean, he's been to an NBA Finals in a tougher conference. Yeah. And I think the playmaking of him having everybody at their best in that. I mean, they lost, like, everyone, he got traded because of it and he lost, but I feel like it was an Boston is last year is beating any team in the league in 5.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're going to have one bad shooting night. You're going to get us on that night.
Indiana, that's another example of a sweep that was really a close series.
Exactly. Like, no one was, like, Indiana gave us more problems than Dallas. Yeah. Even though we swept them.
Yeah.
And we didn't have Porzingis that series, of course, but I don't know. Like, it really just the playmaking that does it for me because I feel like, and once again, Luka also, because the playoff scoring is almost the same with him and Brunson. I mean, when you could talk about Luka, he averages the most points behind Michael Jordan, or maybe right above him. Yeah. In all-time points per game in playoffs and his young career that it's been. So
I kind of look at the ISO ball, like, even if you are playmaking in the fashion that Luka is, I kind of look at it as the same detriment to the offense. And I guess it could be different the way that he is passing the ball. Yeah. But I mean, if you're scoring the ball, you're scoring the ball in that way. And if the ball isn't moving, the ball isn't moving. That's kind of how I look at it. Yeah. And but real quick, because this is taking a little minute. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about 2 more people because now I'm interested. Yeah. All right. First off, with my point guard discussion, I'm gonna go ahead and say, so you're probably not gonna agree. Yeah. But I'm gonna say, if I'm going into next year, I would much rather have Cade Cunningham than Tyrese Haliburton. And that is just me. It's based off obviously progression. Yeah. In his first playoff run, I think Detroit is going to take a big step. Next year, we've already talked about this. They're probably going to be, in my opinion, they're going to have the biggest jump of any team in the league next year, and I think they're going to make a big
depending
splash.
on the Giannis, the KD, the Jaylen Brown.
See what happens with that as well. Yeah. But I think Cade is going to be a top 5 player at a certain point, and that's the reason. Well. That's the reason that I do have him over Tyrese Haliburton, and I think that jump from kind of all-star level to really like superstar, you're stamped. That happens next year for Cade Cunningham.
I think you could make an argument if we're going off regular seasons, because playoff matters. Playoffs is why I have Haliburton. I think if you go off regular season, you could make an argument, in my personal opinion, that he could have been over Donovan Mitchell on first team this year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about the jump,
I mean, I think Ant could have been over.
If we're talking about the jump of being valuable, from what the Pistons were the year before, that's a pretty good case for a guy like Cade, and they didn't make roster changes that were expected to put them in that position.
Absolutely not. I mean, this was his first season playing winning basketball in the NBA.
Exactly.
And he did great.
That is why I would wait another year probably and want to see that playoff run.
Yeah.
And it would just come down to me once again the assist to no turnover ratio, and it would come down to what he's done with this Indiana team back-to-back years.
Yeah.
But I do think Cade will be all-time better player than Haliburton. I can pretty much stamp that. But if we're talking just next season, I would take Haliburton.
Okay.
But I
you understand it though.
I don't see a world where Cade doesn't end up being better than Haliburton before it's all said and done with.
Real question. Do you think matter of fact, I forgot the question. I'm gonna just move on.
You said one more player, right?
Yeah, one more player.
Okay.
Last player I'm going to ask you about, and I know we've had a short discussion, and you answered it, and I'm not gonna. I thought you were out of your mind, and let's see if you stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Tyrese Haliburton is better than Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, I do.
Stick it to your guns.
I do. I would give Ant obviously the defense.
Yeah.
But once again, I just think that Anthony Edwards is not. And, Haliburton isn't there and never will be, but that's not why he wins.
Yeah.
But Ant isn't there as a scorer yet from the standpoint of taking over a game and winning a playoff game.
Yeah.
In a conference finals, in an NBA finals.
I agree.
I think he needs to add more. I love how he gets it within the flow of the game.
Yeah.
But he needs to add more a post game, a mid range.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to take your take, but he's not a 3-level scorer.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
He shoots the 3 ball, shot the threes, most threes in the league this year. We know he has some already his career highlight. He's going to get to the rim. He's going to dunk on. He's going to finish. Yeah. But I think that was very easy-ish for an all-time defense in OKC to scout and figure him out.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Ant's defense does matter, and it's close for me.
Yeah.
And I think, just like Cade, he will be an all-time better player.
Absolutely.
But as a leader of my team and just the value of the style that you get with Haliburton.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about, you could get this style out of Curry. That's one player you probably could get this style out of. Not at your point, but you could move. Like if Curry played if Haliburton was on the Warriors, you get what I'm saying? If vice versa.
Yeah.
But players like Brunson, Luka, even though Ant doesn't play the same as them too, I don't think, you could get this style out of those, which is nothing wrong. No team really has won NBA Finals with the style. The Suns failed with it.
I mean, based off that 2-level scoring that you're speaking of right now, where you're only getting layups and threes, I kind of think the only 2 people who have made that work is Stephen Curry, who does have like a little float, so I'm not going to say didn't have it, and then Luka, who really is straight step-back threes, and he's going to bump you get to the rim. Yeah. But, you see James Harden, he was the same way. He was a 2-level scorer, and it did not translate in the playoffs because if you're taking step-back threes, it doesn't matter how good of a three-point shooter you are, you're going to miss. That's that's a shot with very high outcomes. If the step-back, if the contest is a little bit too much this way, the ball is going to go a little bit to the right.
It's not a consistent look.
It's not a consistent look at all. So that's why their games go down a little bit in the playoffs. But as far as Tyrese Haliburton, Ant is a better player than Tyrese Haliburton. I don't think there's any discussion. He's done more in the NBA, in my opinion, straight up.
As in
accomplishments, winning.
He has one more.
He has one more, in my opinion.
Where? When?
Well, okay. His winning has been more impressive, in my opinion, though.
Okay.
I mean, you're taking out literal legends, and obviously you didn't play great in the 2 Western Conference Finals, one in your first one and then one against an all-time defense, that being said. But we're about to see what this OKC Thunder is about to do to Tyrese Haliburton. And I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be crazy, and Tyrese Haliburton is a point guard, so he's probably not gonna look as uncomfortable.
He might get 20 tonight. He might get 15 tonight.
He might get 15 tonight. That's what I'm thinking.
That might translate to some winning.
It might. But it probably won't. And that's why we're gonna have to slow down if this series goes to where we think it's going to go. Where do you think it's going to go? Where do you think this series is going?
I have OKC in 6.
Okay.
I think it's more likely OKC in 7 than OKC in 5.
Okay.
But I have OKC in 6.
I disagree with that. I think it's more likely OKC in 5 than OKC in 7. But I do have OKC in 6 as well.
Okay.
And for me, it comes down to first best player in this series, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
Who will be able to do anything he wants against these guards. I'm having trouble finding that player on the Pacers that's going to be able to step up and even show a little bit of resistance. You think of a guy like Andrew Nembhard, but let me tell you, Indiana, Jalen Brunson, SGA, this is not the same world. There is levels to this shit, and I really do mean that in the most respectful way. And that's what I meant to talk about this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is having an all-time great NBA season, but Gavin, as far as guards go, where do you rank this particular season if he finishes it off with the chip as far as guard seasons that you have seen in your lifetime?
My lifetime.
I mean, if we're talking, let's say MJ is
not better
one.
than 22 Curry.
See, I don't know. I legitimately don't know if this SGA season for me, as far as guards go, is the best season I've seen in my lifetime. Better than
Prime Curry. Curry won a unanimous one.
Curry did win a unanimous one.
He won a unanimous one.
But there will be no player in NBA history that averages as many points as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will average if he wins this finals throughout an entire season.
I know that, but it's taken to that his styles for sure.
Yeah, styles.
Like, Curry could average 34 that year if it was definitely. We know Curry could do that.
Absolutely.
He never did.
But okay, my point is then if we're gonna say that, I think as far as players go, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this guard season, he has been the best player as far as guards go that I've seen in my entire life this particular season. Better than Stephen Curry in any year. If he wins a championship, and I'm not saying he's better than Stephen Curry, I'm saying when you average the most points in NBA history throughout an entire season and to win a chip, you are a better defender than the guy in question, and you're still averaging a great amount of assists. The ball is in your hands at all time. You're the engine to this offense.
And I still wouldn't say he's a better this season, like if in a playoff game or whatever. I don't know if he's a better offensive player than Shai.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Shai is a better offensive player than Curry.
See, that's where I would dispute it though, because everything for Shai, and this is gonna sound crazy, but it's really giving me MJ Kobe stuff. Like
I agree.
The looks that they are getting, it's a different level of basketball. And why I've told you that I think Kobe is a better player than Stephen Curry is because their shot chart has less variance. And Kobe is a bad example, kind of, because he was shot chucking anywhere, so it wasn't the same. But as far as Shai's shot selection, his dominance offensively, I haven't seen him play a bad game since. First off, the Denver series, it seems like now. Obviously, the game where we got blasted by 40. But yeah, that's one series. Like, at this point, 2 playoff runs in, it's hard to find an answer for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander offensively. And I just haven't seen a level of dominance throughout an entire season as far as scoring the ball and winning from any guard in my lifetime. Even Stephen Curry, who did get a unanimous MVP averaging 30 points a game in 2016 when they eventually lost to the Cavs, who did average 24 points a game in 2015 when they beat the Cavs without a Kyrie Irving and without a Kevin Love. In 2022, when, yes, I think that was his best championship run, and I think that's the best version of Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
But the run wasn't, it was the Grizzlies. It was some teams that
I think my thing is about runs with certain players. I was cool with people flawing the Celtics until they beat the Western Conference champs, because then it's like the whole league. So it's like with the Warriors, I would have been like, that's a fraud run if they were to lose to the Celtics. Yeah. But I think when you take out what was favored a better team at the time, the Celtics, and Rob Williams, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams, all these guys, I do think it just puts all of that to rest. And I think you can make an argument that it's the most complete season because that regular season ain't better than unanimous Curry, but Curry didn't have that postseason.
Yeah, exactly.
2022 had the postseason Curry, didn't have the regular season.
Yeah.
Shai might average like 8 more points a game than that regular season Curry. I don't know what his averages were.
Yeah, so for me, it's 2022 Curry,
but it might be the most complete.
SGA. Yeah,
it could be the most complete season.
And we're not going to talk about postseasons when it comes to early Curry, because if we want to talk about that brings those seasons down for me, and I'm not going to get into that because Stephen Curry has the most diehard fans of any athlete that I've seen in my life.
I also think that if he doesn't win it, I don't know if I will put this over last year.
Luka?
Because Luka averaged.
No, I think that's not crazy to say at all.
And I think Luka I'm not gonna say got snubbed of an MVP because it's hard to say Jokic doesn't deserve an MVP, but obviously the story and all that is why SGA #1 team, all that.
Yeah.
But we're talking about from an individual performance. He took a team to the finals who wasn't favored to go to the finals. Probably wasn't top 3 in favorites before the playoffs started.
No.
And he took that team to the finals against Boston with 34, 9, and 10.
Yeah. And he had the ability to make that series longer, or that last series longer.
I definitely think his defense was the reason. But I think there was no worse matchup to go against.
No, definitely
up to that point, every time Luka plays somebody, you could hide him on somebody.
Yeah.
And the way the NBA is going, that's not helping Luka.
No.
But with the superstar play, 5 years ago, you could throw Luka on PJ Tucker.
Absolutely.
In the corner.
And you'd be fine. But nowadays, it's 5 athletic guys
you can't hide Luka against the Boston Celtics. You can't hide Luka against the Pacers.
No.
So I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about this matchup, though? Going in, I just stated how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the best player, and that's one reason. Do you have any reasons for why OKC in 6? Any other reasons?
I think I love Indiana. I love their style. I think they have a 1,000,000 times better coach, and even I just think at some point talent matters.
Yes, that's what it is for me as well.
I think at some point talent matters. Haliburton's amazing, but Shai just is talented.
And
he's elite talented.
I think we're going to be so defensively disciplined.
And I think not to interrupt you, but I think Indiana could do some things to. I saw Denver affect y'all with some zone.
Yes.
I saw, I think pressing y'all I like it. Pressing and getting back to making y'all make some shots, speeding y'all up.
Yeah.
Because Shai can't get into all the shots he wants to if he's getting pressed 24/7.
No.
He can't just walk it down and get his one-on-one matchup and get his pick and roll. Because if Shai's getting pressed the whole game,
absolutely,
and then after he's getting pressed, he has to come get a ball screen, and then he has to reset it. It's not gonna be as efficient as it was against any other team. Even though they don't have the personnel defensively, it's gonna be the toughest defensive look I think OKC has seen, other than maybe Denver's zone with a mix of. But I think it's gonna be Shai's most difficult look. I don't know about the team. I think that style I just said has the opportunity to get a lot of other guys going.
Yeah. So offensively, for the Thunder, I agree with you. I think it's going to be tough. Nothing the Thunder have done offensively should prove to you that there's just going to be a lights out offense at 24/7. It's not that team.
Yeah.
But
I think there's nights that no matter how good y'all are defensively, if Nesmith is hitting, if Embiid is hitting, I think if you get, like I said, 2 of those nights, which would be in 6.
Exactly. That would be in 6.
They could give y'all problems and even maybe blow y'all out a game like Minnesota did.
Absolutely. But that's the problem. How are they going to score on us? And that's what Indiana is going to be looking for this entire series. What mismatch can we exploit to win us some ball games? And the one that came to mind, we've discussed this earlier, we have to see if Pascal Siakam is going to be able to bust Chet, to bust anybody else who's in the front court to win that matchup. And he's Miles Turner. They're going to have to win those matchups in the front court because the scoring, I can tell you right now, is not coming from the backcourt. It's just not. Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, guarding guys like Nembhard and Tyrese Haliburton, Lou Dort also. I'm just confident in that. I really am confident. Defense travels. So I don't think these guards for Indiana are going to have the greatest of games. They can play to their maximum extent, but this OKC defense is only going to allow so much.
Yeah, I just think it comes down to the guys on the bench. If Indiana wants to win, the guys on the bench have to play how they played, and they can't. We can't say Indiana has all this depth, and then they play OKC, and we're like, and they only have 5-6 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't do that if Indiana wants to win. We have to say at the end of the series, they had 8, 9 guys. Mathurin has to show up. Nembhard has to show up. And I think with some tough shot making from Nembhard, with, bench, I think, they have to get the nitty-gritty buckets. They have to get the easy buckets in transition. No, and that's what I think OKC hasn't seen. OKC has not seen just fast break offense like they have against this. And Indiana isn't, Nembhard and Haliburton, those guys aren't going to get 20 in the half court against OKC. No one is. Even Ant isn't going to get it just playing in the half court. But they don't play in the half court, which is a thing that I'll have to see. Is OKC going to stop the ball very well? And honestly be able to tell you all I need to know by seeing game one.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think this defense is going to be looking as undisciplined as the Knicks were. As far as Obi Toppin and Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench, it's going to be very important for them.
Like, I think Obi Toppin could have a good series.
I think he could have a horrible one as well, though, because those are the two guys that I think aren't as high IQ as the rest of those guys on that team. I think they're still on the younger side.
Yeah.
So I think they could be played into a lot of mistakes and turnovers.
When I say good, I mean nitty. I'm thinking putbacks. I'm thinking cutting.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm not talking about give Ben.
They can.
I'm not talking about, like, I don't think Benedict Mathurin, he might have one where he's getting some ISO buckets.
Yeah, but I think having Obi Toppin in at like the 3 in this series, like that would be smart as far as getting like O boards and things of that nature and capitalizing off of O boards because I don't
know why. I guess Finch is just stuck on his talent. But I would throw that zone back at y'all.
I thought Dagnall outcoached Finch in the last series.
I think Finch has became a little overrated, but I've heard
the roster is also. We just got. Yeah.
I've heard like he's our. Like I've heard people say he's our guy for the future. Like,
we got to
say that.
We just got to see one more season. I think so because if it's another stable season and it proves this guy has kind of took some, let's say, immature personalities and made him overachievers. So, and the last thing I want to do in this video. We just both took OKC in 6, so I want to look at the last 5 finals of the Parity era.
Yep.
And let's just recap how we felt about those going in. So the first one I want to talk about, Heat and Lakers. I think we knew the Lakers were winning that, and they ended up winning in 6. Next one, Bucks and Suns. I feel like that one was a little bit split. Am I tripping on that one?
Yeah, for sure, because Suns went up 2-0.
It was up.
And it was like, yo, Suns about to win, and then they just didn't win another game. So I think, that was pretty split.
I took the Bucks to win that series. I took the Bucks,
but I didn't take the Bucks after they were down 0-2, but I took the Bucks.
Yeah, I think they were split. And then Golden State, Boston was split. 100%. That was split down the middle.
People thought with the experience, but then Boston was a more talented team.
Absolutely. And it was a 6-game series. Ended up being a pretty good finals, in my opinion. I don't know why people discredit that one.
Yeah.
Then we got Heat Nuggets. I think people knew the Nuggets were going to win that one as well.
Were gonna win. I don't think the Heat were ever really looked at as finals contenders. No. I think they were just looked at contenders to get there.
Yeah. And then Boston and Dallas. I kind of thought that was a little bit closer. It wasn't. That's kind of like the middle one.
You did.
No, me. I thought Dallas was gonna win.
Yeah.
We were saying if it got to 7, we trusted Luka to win.
Luka was gonna cook her.
And I thought Luka was. And I thought Dallas was gonna be. And by the way, Dallas should have put up a better fight than they did, but they didn't. So just recapping over all of those things.
Yeah.
What we just proved is that I was wrong about one series out of the last 5 years, final series. And we've been right, pretty much. So there hasn't been a lot of upsets, but we do see potential for this series to be good. And maybe Indiana does steal a couple because what they have done in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs
is still the
first two games of home court, which is crazy in my opinion. I mean, you really do. Winning in 5, 5, and 6, it's like a dominant playoff run. I feel like some of these teams, maybe if you put them in a different era, they're not going to be as competitive with those teams if you put them against like the all-time great teams. But at the same time, like what they are doing in this league right now, it is absolutely dominant.
I think it'll always be how do styles collide. Because you could say that, certain teams were more dominant, certain teams were better at this, certain teams were better at that. But, not to say that Michael Jordan's 72-10 Bulls would beat the Indiana Pacers. Because they wouldn't. But it would be a collide.
Wait. Would beat the Indiana Pacers? You saying they wouldn't beat the Pacers?
No, they would.
Oh, okay, they would beat the Pacers.
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm saying just that's an example, but just any all-time team that we might think is just better than OKC.
Yeah.
We just think is better than the Pacers. I'm just saying Pacers because it's easy to identify them as a unique style.
Yeah.
It will always be about styles. And that's why I think that, once again, this is off track, but I think that the Warriors are the greatest team of all time with Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Simply because they're, where do they not win? They went on paper. They went on paper. They're an elite defensive team.
Yes.
It's not talked about.
Yeah.
And offensively,
there's no way you can score more than them.
Yeah, there's no way you can score more than them. I mean, when you start talking about, like, for instance, you start talking about 72-10, not to get off track, but 72-10 Bulls versus the KD Warriors. Like, Jordan will get his 45. No one's saying he won't. Like, Klay Thompson's a great defender in his prime, but
absolutely,
you put, like, Jordan will get 45.
Yeah.
And what else? Pippen ain't outscoring KD.
Yeah.
He ain't Ron Harper ain't outscoring Curry. They just get beat at every other position.
It's just too much offense.
Yeah, it's just too much offense.
Yeah, I look at this Thunder team honestly, and I don't even consider it an all-time team. Like I wouldn't even say top 10 probably. I'd say in the past 5 years, I would say the Celtics were a better team last year. I would say the Nuggets were a better team in their championship run. I would say maybe the Lakers in their bubble run, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Well, LeBron and AD, I'm going to say they were better in their championship run. And then you're talking about the Bucks and the Warriors in their 2022 run. I would think they were better than the Bucks, and I would also say they're better than the Warriors.
5 or 6.
I think they would bust the Warriors actually in that particular year in 2022.
Poole
was cashing in Andrew Wiggins, but I don't know. I just feel like
y'all match up well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Y'all were a very young team. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we didn't, sidetrack a little bit too much. I feel like we just talked about a hell of a lot.
Yeah, we did.
But this was supposed to be an Indiana and OKC preview
video.
And that's what it's going to be titled as. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, please, and peace out.